So then we are back with more information regarding the Aramaic English translation of the scriptures. And this is from the Hebraic viewpoint of the scriptures. Very important because there are a couple of translations, and there is the Greco-Roman translation and the Hebraic translation. So we want words from heaven, and his name is Yahweh. The name of the true Elohim. He's the creator of the heavens and the earth, and we want to hear from him what he has in his agenda for us, because the earth is entering in revelation, as we can understand. The signs are showing, and the weather is truly changing, and many person with a basic understanding of prophecies can plainly read the seals and the understanding of then the layers of prophecy, and there is a specific understanding regarding the famine and the drought caused by high temperatures. So then it's not a situation where a person doesn't believe the word, or a person thinks those scriptures were manipulated, but the content of them, those are very true, and it deserves our focus because we are entering into them. However, there are areas we must be very acquainted with, and there are steps of formation regarding then when a person comes to the faith. It takes a bit of time for a person to be lined up with the real scriptures. Much more so if we were then born atheist, and sometimes much worse when a person is born with some sort of understanding, but then they were given the false Messiah. It then causes a lot of trouble, because then there were experiences regarding the false Messiah where the people, they were then truthful, honest, and trustworthy, but then the other side, in terms of the trustability of what they were trusting in, then did not work, and obviously wouldn't, because they were not informed properly. So then, let's be grateful, because there is a copy that is the closest we can ever get from the Hebraic copy. And there are also areas where we must understand from the Creator's viewpoint. And those areas are extremely important, because with the Creator there is no bad time, and there is no crisis. And there are no crises. It can be a set of, and there are no crises with them. However, the situations are presenting themselves as emergencies. It must be taken care of. So then, in our understanding of the Creator, there are points that we must be very acquainted with, and those points are then the camps. Those are places where He then speaks. The Creator, He does not speak outside of the camp. Plain and simple. He simply doesn't. He does speak through His people, but they must be in camps. The only reason why He speaks, because there are camps around, but not very many of them. He can't deny Himself. The period of transition from the first service to the second service with the first anointing that He brought, that time is far gone expired. And He understands when we are lazy and try to make up stories not to get the work done. So then the limitation of his understandings, and when he speaks, those are very limited because we are not being obedient. However, there is the influence of Ruach HaKodesh, and we should be very grateful for it. But because there are camps yet, there are places where they are being maintained, those holy laws. Otherwise, the Creator wouldn't speak. He can't deny himself. That's what he told the people to do. There are steps of formation. He speaks when we are obedient. There are yet camps in the earth, but not as many as it should. We have to have lots of camps yet, because people are waiting for answers, but they have to do their part. Do you think then, if you would give an order for the people, go out and make holy lands around the world, and then after more than 1,000 years the job doesn't get done, do you think he would go any further in his talks? No. What was the lasting standing order? Going around the world forming holy lands. That's why we have the example of Yehuda. It shows very plainly. Yehuda, they were on their way to form another holy land. So the Creator is holy, and He speaks when He gives orders. There are other deities over there posing as. Those are not words from the Creator Yahweh. Those are deities, demonic deities, posing as. You must understand, because there were obviously demons during the time of Israel, and those are active, and they began to watch century by century, after century after century. After a while they begin to have an idea. Don't you think those demons, they use those knowledges gathered from the time of the temple? Of course they use. And they, obviously in 1009, when the nearing line was taken over by Satan the deceiver, then they used the previous knowledge. How can you get this crazy understanding of people sometimes, of the point of having the Savior coming into them and giving them a hug? Where do you get this junk from? Those are demonic spirits posing as. The place of Yahweh Himself is in each Holy of Holies of each camp. Those were the last standing orders. Some people may have some strange experiences, but there is no Savior coming around and giving them hugs. Give you 100% surety of it. The Creator is a holy person. He has His own language, His own ways, His own laws, His own judgments, His own statutes, and He must be ministered in each Holy of Holies. And then there is no such a situation, a group of people coming together and trying to change His ways. He said, myself, Yahweh, the true Elohim, changes not. He doesn't change. So we must adapt. We want to hear from heaven, then we adapt. And we are behind schedule, more than 1,000 years behind schedule. So these stories of people going to church and having this junk of slain in the spirit, Ugh. It was a total ridiculous, made up junk based with demons. That's what it is. There is no gifting of the Spirit. Where do you get this gifting of the Spirit from? Those are ministrations, functions, through Ruach HaKodesh, through the Holy Hebrews when they are obedient, in their camps. There are no pastors, no teachers, no evangelists, no prophets, no miracle workers outside of the camps. Only because Israel has neglected the church era, it doesn't mean it has changed. It did not change. It didn't. That's why our country is broken. The Greco country is broken and the Roman country is broken. Because we have believed a false Messiah. It doesn't take very much for a person to understand. Then they try to spiritualize. That's because it's the end of times and rough times everywhere. Okay, so what is your gifting? Sounds like you have a lot of authority regarding the end of times and troubles. What is your gifting to back you up with your opinion? Because people can't walk around talking crap. Any person can go around talking junk. What is your gifting? And then a person shuts up because there is no gifting outside of the camp. What is truth is truth. What is a lie is a lie. There is no gifting outside of the camp. That's why our country is busted. The Greco country is busted. The Roman country is busted. Because we have believed the false Messiah. When we come to the real Messiah, we must line up ourselves. Yahweh said, don't be involved with the world's trade. His people had to be set apart from the time of Moses. Try to understand the situation. They were brought out of slavery with mighty signs and wonders. Through the sea, near the mountain, they received the holy laws. From there they came and they set up camp. Then they were involved with the first service. And then afterwards they went to the Holy Land, the Promised Land, where they would get sustenance from. And trained the first service for more than 1,000 years. Later the church would be then portable tabernacles around the world. Going around the world forming holy lands. This is what the church is. There are no establishments outside of the camps. The Hebrews, saved, set apart, are not to be involved with the trades of the world. The Gentiles, however, they can do the trades of the world. The Gentiles can't, negative, have any kind of ministry. The set apart, they are the guardians of the oracles. That's why they should and they must have the ministrations. That's why set apart in the camps, maintain themselves holy. Torah is obeyed 100%. And then outside of the camp, Gentiles in a level of faith. So then, when there is a trouble outside the camp, they come near the gate. and they receive instructions. So then, there are areas that we must be very acquainted with the Hebraic understanding of the Scriptures. Because demons, they try to make this system to work when it doesn't. Try to understand, the world, when the demons entered the world, became contaminated and condemned. There is no fixing. There is salvation through the set apart, trained, sensed, and function, and then the Gentiles, they submit to Elohim in them. When they are obedient in their camps, it's not themselves speaking, it is Elohim through them. So then our project in our congregation, we are very grateful to Yahweh because He has done a marvelous work. He has found a nice range for us. We are very grateful because we begin to study His Word profoundly, and we found the truth, and He did His part. So then when the camp is set up and ready to go, prophecies and also healings and miracles, they should be documented and standardized throughout the world. We are asking the Holy Yahweh also to help us with a shortwave radio station. So when we hear from Elohim, this means when the people of the camp, they hear from the Creator, they go outside and they pronounce and they proclaim. Those areas of the 7 functions must be then broadcasted around the world, so it becomes a standard. When there is a problem with the Hebraic country or Hebraic congregations, and Yahweh thinks it's the time to expose, must be said, and goes open around the world via radio and also via internet. So there is no manipulation of any kind, and then each camp must be standardized. No camp doing their own. It must be standard. What people do with the information when they hear, that's from them and the Creator. The part of the camp is doing their duties. And then the rest of it is proclaimed around the world. So there is no more than junkie talking from any area. They hear from Elohim, it is broadcasted. Takes place, becomes truth, then it's true. If it is junk, we are going to find out. That's why people in the camps, they are obedient 100% to the Torah, because every time they speak, then it's from Elohim, and then it works every time. That's why it must be broadcasted. So then, understanding from the Hebraic viewpoint, this is what people then they are expecting. True words from heaven. And then those must be shared via also radio, because there are lots of countries around the world they can't get internet signal. Some of the countries are socialist. Internet is limited. Sometimes they can't get even television. But the truth from Elohim must be spoken. So then people begin to understand there is a creator and he's very active. And he's a standard around the world. So then when the people they get the copies of their own Bibles or their own languages, they don't make pictures in their minds of what the creator is, or who he is, or what he should be. Because each country they have a specific perception what this creator should be and what he is. So when you say a word in a holy language, when you translate, they relate a picture, obviously in the mind, of what it is. If you don't explain what it is in a Hebraic understanding, it's going to come up another type of an understanding. It must be standard. So then when they hear in countries far away, very far away, sometimes areas where they are socialists, but then tiny shortwave radios can be then put through. Can hide someplace in the car as a personal item that a person listens. But then the believers in those countries can tune in. If you come up with a complicated electronics and junky computers, you go to the junk with a junky computer, the humidity then destroys the equipment. It's a piece of junk. You must have a reliable equipment. And only because we are an advanced technological country, it doesn't mean the other are. The other countries, they are not. But they must receive the words of Elohim. There are countries, yeah, they don't even have radios. That's why we are asking the true Elohim to give us a radio station so then we can broadcast around the world true words of Elohim. And then the entire radio program then is under the control of the people of the camp. Because they can come near Elohim and ask you, what do you want us to do? What schedule do you want? And he speaks. Point the beam towards this direction during this day and explain this. This is what should be done. Then the other day, point the beam towards this direction and teach this. And then the other direction, teach this. He's a person. So then when people in the jungle over there of South America, they grab the radio, they can listen words from Elohim. Or people over there in Africa on the other side. Then they hear the words, those are standards. Then they begin to understand the standardized understanding of the Hebraic view of the scriptures. Then they can understand in their own language and they must be explained. So they don't have the wrong perception in terms of, for instance, Job or Job. He was the wealthiest. Understand? The wealthiest. He was tested because he was boasting. He was rich. Rich people, after a while, they get boastful. But he had principles of Elohim in his life. Yet, after a while, if a person does not maintain, and more riches and more riches and more riches and more riches, after a while begin to boast. And then he was tested. But then the translators, they were perceiving wealth as a sign of practicing justices. And it was not the point. Because Elohim can't be tempted, and he does not tempt any person. The only true person with no guilt was his son. And he was punished for no reason. Any other character in the scriptures, they were then tested for reasons, because of specific reasons. Have you considered my servant Job? There is no wealthier person in the earth. So then around the world, when they hear, this is what it means. Because truly does not make sense when a person is practicing justices and then being tested. Why would a person then practicing justices and then being so punished so badly? It doesn't make sense. There was only a person punished for no reason. It was his son, for our benefit. The rest of them, they were tested for a reason. So when they read the scriptures, then they understand. And then when the Hebrew brothers, they speak for Elohim outside of the camps, then must be broadcasted. That's what those nations, they would do when they would come to the gates of the Hebrews. The Asian countries where those churches were at, they would come very often for guidance from the camps. That's why they are prosperous. So then when a person is in the faith, as in the level of the Gentiles must be informed of what's going on. And there are no denominations junk. We understand there are no churches outside of the camps. No denominations. That's why Yahweh said, don't have people ruling over you. Because the authorities are already set in place. Those are in the camps. And that's what we are then doing. We are working together to get at least a camp set up properly. And we ask Yahweh, the true Elohim, to help us get these situations situated. And then to prove to the people, we want also a shortwave radio station in it. Obviously not in a camp, because it's not part of the scriptures, but then outside of the camp in a service area can have a radio station. And when there are words from heaven, must be broadcasted. And then the teaching that Elohim wants around the world also must be then respected. Teach these today, point the beam this direction. Because he has people over there on direction that he wants people taught. And he's the true Elohim. He controls the atmosphere. He controls every particle in the air. Every layer of the atmosphere he controls. Sometimes he wants the wave to go further. He makes sure the waves then go forward. And further and further and further. That's his project. He wants to be done this way. It's going to be done as He wants. And there is no manipulation. So when a person on the other side of the world is listening, then a person have an idea what it is. And obviously important information from heaven must be then done first in English. And then the other countries, they have to translate. But then it's given words in Hebrew to back it up. Because prophecies and words from heaven always are spoken in Hebrew. Never is spoken in any other language. Only sometimes when Ruach HaKodesh then is speaking in other tongues. So then we are prepared for hearing only in Hebrew. If it comes in any other way, it's a plus on our side. That's why we are asking Elohim, the true Elohim, Yahweh, to help us to get the station going, to get the entire camp set up, so then we can be reliable. We are not playing camp, going out for a tent playing. No, we want words from heaven. And we want the world to know also. Because there are so many of these congregations, in these organizations, in these thousands of religious organizations, and they don't know what they are doing. Because we were told not to have people ruling over us. We are not to be involved in the ministry. We are to be shepherded. So then there are areas, for instance, where people, they can't have persons over there to shepherd them. That's why it's important listening. And have this in mind, this area of the church is neglected for more than 1,000 years. It's a long time. There are a few camps, but there are not very many. But then these crazy establishments outside of the camps, claiming to be hearing from heaven, they don't have a clue what they are doing. It's a lie from A to Z. Deceit, it's pure deceit. It's nice having some sort of understanding from heaven, but then they proclaim in their own viewpoints. And the Creator has His own viewpoint. So where is His viewpoint? Certainly not among those organizations. So they are teaching their own doctrines. Doctrines of demons. So then we are asking Elohim for more, so we can be reliable. But it takes time. It truly does take time. So then when people, they are hearing the words, then they begin to relate in Hebraic viewpoint, not in Greco-Roman. They begin to get used to the Hebraic understanding of it. And in a gradual sense, then they submit. But these areas, they come in a natural As they hear it every day, they begin to search and search and search and search. And then when a person explains what it means, then the reading becomes already pre-existent. In the mind, they hear, and the proper translation already causes pictures in their minds. Then when they read, they link those together. And then comes the understanding. And then forms a layer. And then, similarly, with other areas. So what we are truly asking Elohim is for then give us more so we can do what He said for us to do. So then the Gentiles, they get benefited from. Because boy, there's lots of junk out there. Ooh. Lots and lots and lots. There are prophets, there are no prophets, miracle workers, no miracle workers, pastors, pastoring, they don't know what they are talking about. Because the truth, the real truth, causes anger. Have you perceived it? What do you think when then the Creator Himself was then teaching over there and they would gnash at Him? Because the truth exposes the evil in them. It's truly important because then people are aware of. They have evils in them and they have to deal with them. We already perceived that this false Messiah isn't working. Greco country is broken beyond repair. The Roman country is broken and our country is breaking. For how much longer do we want to be in this false Messiah for? But then lots of establishments, they can't even speak what is sin. This is how crazy the situation is. They have this exemption with taxes and they can't speak against sin. So what is the purpose of it? There is no purpose. So you must have an establishment where the truth is given. If people get angry or not get angry, they hear the truth. What you do with it, it's from yourselves and the Creator. But you can be sure of it, when you hear the truth, the time that you're going to speak a lie, it's going to show up. The Creator came to clean up His laws. When He came, there were more than 10,000 laws. More than 10,000. There were thousands and thousands and thousands mixed with the biblical law. He came to clean it up. He came to set the camp straight. This is what He did. So then when you read the renewed covenant, it's not the fact that you yourselves are excluding yourselves from the laws. You don't understand there was a cleaning up of the laws. But then you think you can excuse yourselves then from the laws. That's pride. If we are not obedient to the guidelines, we are judged the past tense. And then your pastor teaches you that's going to be a judgment in heaven. Great news for you. There is no judgment in heaven. Can come up to your pastor and say, you know what? There is no judgment in heaven. Where did you get this information from? From the Bible. You want me to show you? What version do you have? Blah, 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 blah. New International Version, or King James Version, or New King James Version, or the Revised Standard. Those are junk. Why you are not reading from the Aramaic Hebrew understanding? There is no judgment to come. Because the Creator made it very simple. If we are not obedient to His instructions, then judged. Why would the Creator want to observe your face when you get to heaven if you are not obedient? Would you want to get burned twice? Is not already enough what he said? If a person is not obedient, is going to the first death, remains there in torment for the very second death, then is going to be burned. Do you want a second burn? We must scrape away this junk of the churches outside of the camps. There are no organizations, no religions, no separations. Simply fact, Gentiles never minister. That's why we're asking Elohim to be with us in our camp. Because we are going to do our utmost to get the camp going perfectly as He wants. And He understands our limitations, and we are very dependent upon Elohim. We wanted so much of it that we want a shortwave radio station also in the property. So when Elohim then speaks through His people, it's going to be broadcasted. If we talk junk on our own, we get busted. And this is what's important. But if we do it properly, we won't. And the whole setup must be done. Tents, tabernacle, Ark of the Covenant, priests, services, rotations. So we are asking for help. Please help us get our camp set up. And then Shaliach Shaul then was very explicit regarding it. The only reason why the Shaliach Shaul went out and he was preaching to the Gentiles, it's because he was told to do. The rest of the people, later they had to be in camps. And this area was explained. We have only 10% of the recordings. There is 90% not recorded. From the time they left Egypt, the church started. First service was then practiced when he came, when the Creator came. He introduced the first anointing and the second service. Then there was a transitional time. And then the Shilishim, they were out then and they were relinking the people. Because their camps and the camps were on their way. There were camps in many areas, so then they would be relinked, pointed to the camp. Relinked, points to the camp. Relinked, points to the camp. That's why in Romans he said, let every soul be subjected to the authorities of the kingdom to come government. He would relink the people, pointing to the camp. Relinking the people, pointing them to the camp. So then they would be shepherded. You can verify these areas very clearly in the Aramaic version of the scriptures. It shows very plainly. But then people must take steps and initiate. There is a work to be done. People are always talking junk. Oh, let the other group do it. Let others do it. And they don't get their rears in gear. It never gets done. While they are busy doing their own junk. And they make an idol out of their own families. And they want to be important. Only because you have a family does not mean you are holy. You simply have a family. What is your gifting in the ministry? Blah, 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 blah. Now, because God didn't say you should be part of the ministry. So you are saying yourself then you are holy because you have a family. Dogs have families. Cats have families. Birds have families. So you have a family. What is the distinction from yourselves and then birds and cats and dogs? If you don't hear from Elohim through His Word, in the form of Ruach HaKodesh's influence, you are no distinct from a dog or cat or a bird. Doing a mundane thing. Birds, they go out of their nests, they gather nourishment and bring it to the chicks. You go out in your car, you go out in the work, and you bring nourishment to your chicks, so to speak. There is no distinction from you having your family and then cats and dogs and birds. The only distinction in the whole situation is having understanding from the Hebraic understanding. So then you can share properly with other people. Otherwise, birds, cats, and dogs are more important than you, because at least those animals and birds, they are not talking junk. They are quiet.